Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing this morning? Oh, yeah, some enthusiasm. I like it. So we're going to get kicked off with day number 2 here. So I'll ask everybody to take their seats as we have a pretty full agenda today. It should be very insightful and very exciting. So welcome. Hello, everybody, to day 2 of the 27th Annual Mining Health and Safety Conference hosted by Workplace Safety North. My name's Steve Rickson. I'll be the conference MC again today. What a good day we had yesterday. I know there's some new faces here today, but a lot of people here for both days, but a lot of great insights. Mike giving us an overview of Workplace Safety North and the state of the industry in the province of Ontario. And what was it? I think 36 operating mines and 30 mines kind of in advanced stages of exploration. So very good, very positive news, healthy, good news for all the operators, good news for the contractors, a lot of good stuff in there. Derek Daly, Formula One race car driver. What did everybody think of Derek? Pretty good. So I'd like to thank whoever arranged getting him in, but great talks on leadership and performance and safety and changes and think safe, be safe, right? And the planning. A bunch of things really stood out to me from Derek's presentation. I took screenshots of his 6 secrets there. I was just going to go over them quickly. A company only becomes safe when enough people in it become safe. So it's about people. Don't substitute compliance for responsibility. I've heard that term before. Similar is like we got to get from a state of compliance to one to commitment, right? We're not doing it to check a box and say, yes, we're in compliance. We're doing it because we're committed, because it's the right way to work. I love this one. Don't declare war on human error. That's pretty easy to do, right? When we have an incident or something like that, well, Caitlin screwed up. She always screws up. We get rid of Caitlin, the problem's solved, right? Sorry, Caitlin. Safe teams do the right things as opposed to doing things right. So just because you're doing things right, if it's not the right thing, you're not going to get ahead. So given that constant thought there. Safe teams require individualistic thinkers who become team players in their actions. So you need to have the atmosphere and the culture where people can think, not be robots, and come up with great ideas. The best ideas always come from the floor, right? From the face, from the shop floor. So that's really critical. And the last one's a little bit longer. Safe teams require a portfolio of leaders, individuals throughout the organization who are willing and capable to accept responsibility of leadership regardless of the formal authority. And that's, like we talk about leadership a lot. I don't care what your job title is. I see leaders in all different parts of this industry, and it's fantastic. We've got some of the best people, so that's what it's all about. So I thought Derek, a lot of great insights there. And then the mock trial was very impactful, right? Talking about the foundations of health and safety and due diligence at its finest, right? And I think John and Jeremy gave very good examples of what it can be like when you're kind of under the microscope. Post-incident, everybody's got that 20/20 vision, right? Should have done this, could have done that, and that's the extent that you can held to. So I thought it was a very impactful day. And today we're going to get a bunch of great presentations and recognitions for a bunch of leaders within the industry, so it's going to be fantastic. Before I introduce our first speaker, though, today, I would like to take a moment to recognize our sponsors. Again, without the sponsorship, this event would not be possible. So the diamond sponsor for the event is Sophie. Their support is vital in helping us create an event that brings safety professionals together to share insights, ideas, and strategies that will shape the future of mining. Keynote sponsors are Redpath and Safe Contractors. Thank you for your continued support. At the platinum level, many thanks to AJ Stone, DMC Mining Services, and Provix. Don't forget to visit them at the trade show today. There's a lot of great exhibitions set up today, so during the breaks, please make your way over there and talk with them. They got a lot of great innovations to share. And at the gold level, we'd like to thank the Electrical Safety Authority, KGHM, and Vale Base Metals. And, this conference wouldn't be possible without the fantastic work of all the WSN staff, so let's give them a big round of applause. And even within the WSN staff, there's a couple groups that we'd like to recognize at this time. So if you are a member of the Conference Planning Committee or the Mining Advisory Committee, could you just stand up and be recognized by the group here today, please? And we also have several members of the WSN Board of Directors here, so let's take a moment to recognize them. There's the chair of WSN, is Derek Budge. Is Derek here? He was here yesterday. Anyway, and then the directors, Lydia Renton, Eric Hapamaki, Sandra Haddad, and Jason Buba. So big round of applause for the WSN Board of Directors. So before we begin today's program, we'll get into a few housekeeping notes because there are some people who are new today that weren't here yesterday. So in the event of an evacuation that's required, there are 2 sets of staircase on each side of this room that we can use, and our muster point will be at the back part of the parking lot to get to everybody. If you need help getting out the stairs, please find somebody, or if you're unable, you'll have to make your way down out the ramp to the left. The washrooms are located just outside this room to the right, and there's some more in the lobby area. There's going to be coffee, snacks, and drinks set up at the back of the table each around the breaks. And then at your table, there's also a QR code on the little stand there. If you can scan that and provide your feedback for the conference, that would be really great. There's been a lot of improvements on this conference over the years, and without your feedback, it doesn't really make it possible. And if you forget to do that, you'll get a friendly email reminder asking for your feedback later on. So today's program is going to include 8 technical sessions discussing the latest in health and safety. Following each presentation, we'll try and dedicate some time to audience questions and answers. So with that, we will get into our first speaker of the day. So this morning we have going first is Ryan Lawrence, and his paper is titled Everything You Wanted to Know About the New MSHA Silica Standard, But Were Afraid to Ask. So Ryan Lawrence has been in the laboratory industry for over 15 years, starting in customer service, then moving into the lab, and then into the role of business development. He has many years of assisting clients with technical questions, assisting with data interpretation, and understanding the needs of many different clients. Ryan has worked with many clients in North America to assist their needs regarding industrial hygiene and regulatory needs for environmental testing. He is also a key contact within SGS for mining cycle testing needs of clients, from the grassroots of the mine process to closure monitoring. So let's welcome Ryan.
Morning, everyone. So first off, I'm going to say thanks, Steve, for the introduction. I'm going to be up front. I'm a fill-in. I'm a fill-in for my colleague, Ed Stuber, who is our certified CIH, one of them anyway, at the lab. So I'm doing my best to fill in for him. Yeah, I've got some big shoes to fill. Ed's been doing this for about 40 years, so I'm a few years behind him. When it comes to presentations and things like that, Ed has created this presentation based on U.S. MSHA regulation. So it is a heavy content on the U.S., but I think it still does apply, obviously, to here in Canada, here in Ontario. So, yeah. So that's kind of where we're at. I'll be up front in terms of Q&A. If you do have some technical questions, I'd ask if you want to come see me at the booth, and I can help direct those to Ed, as I am not a certified CIH, to make those responses to you. So I guess to move forward, let's move along. So the agenda for today: who's affected, timeline for compliance, major components of the MSHA Silica standard, exposure sampling, and how to comply. So Steve already did a good job on the bio for me. Thank you, Steve. So, it's not just dust, it's silica, right? US Department of Labor, OSHA. So, MSHA silica standard was last updated in 1985, so it's a little bit outdated. And the OSHA silica standard was last updated in 2016. So, MSHA needed to get their, get themselves in order, get some updates. It's been 30 years, 30 years plus 40 years. So we need to get some updates done within their standard. Mr. Chris Williamson, speaking with a gentleman yesterday, I think he's in the crowd today, I'm not sure. He's been doing this a lot longer than me. He was talking about the US, Chris Williamson, and a few others. This slide is actually now the former Assistant Secretary of Labor for MSHA. Chris actually left about 3 months ago, but he was the one that put this into place. So this is directly from Chris's statement. The purpose of the proposed rule is simple: to better protect the miners from exposure to silica so they do not have to suffer from entirely preventable, debilitating, and deadly occupational illnesses. Silica overexposures have a real-life impact on a miner's health. I think we can all agree in this room that health and safety for the miners is a key. It's not acute. You're not going to see it in 5 years. You're going to see it chronic, right? You're going to see it later on after you have retired, right? And at that point, you're not going to have the coverage that you might have while you're there at the mine site. So chronic is the key. Acute, you're not going to see it. We see a lot of people these days, especially in the springtime. They're out there. I see them street sweepers, guys with the brooms, stirring up all the dust, the silica from the roads from the wintertime. No PPE, right? They don't have any goggles on. They don't have any hearing protection. They don't have any respirators. These are all young people, right? They're unaware of these safety concerns that they're being put into at this point in time. They're looking for a paycheck. Later on in life, they might pay for that. So, with the MSHA ruling, who is impacted? So, all mines. So, metal, non-metal, quarries, gravel, sand, aggregate, and coal. Coal is the one that's actually taking the biggest impact. They are not used to dealing with outside sources when it comes to a laboratory. So, dealing with us as a laboratory, they're not used to that. So, it's been a lot of education for them, coming to us as a lab, but also trying to get more knowledge at different conferences. So, similar exposure groups. So this is a big one when it comes to looking at how you're going to do your sampling, how you're going to test certain groups, how many people that you need. So good news, and I read this over last night, and yeah, there's some issues with this slide, and I apologize. So good news. You don't have to sample every worker at the site. You're looking at those similar exposure groups. So you're going to break down the workers who are performing the same tasks, same shifts, same work areas. So if you're going to have somebody on a dozer, maybe you have 8 people on a dozer for the day, you minimum sample 2 of those people, right, in that group. So the selected workers should be the ones who are expected to have the highest exposure risk to respirable crystalline silica. So drillers, right? They're going to be exposed. They're at the front face. They're the ones breaking things down. Stone cutting operators. So if you're at a quarry site, you're cutting rocks, you're cutting for pavers, things like that. They're right there. They're right in the dust. They're front and center. Kiln, mill, and concentrator workers, same idea. You're at the forefront. There's a lot of dust going on. Crushing equipment operators, plant operators, same thing, right? You're there, the dust is there, you're the first line. And as we move through, so packing equipment operators, conveyor operators, truck loading station tenders, operators of large powered haulage, equipment operators of small powered haulage, equipment mobile workers, miners, and other occupations. With MSHA, they have within the ruling that there's no certifications needed for the person doing the sampling. So when I'm communicating with some of my clients at this point, they're asking, so who can sample? I said, whoever you want, right? There's no regulation within MSHA that says you must be a certified person to give direction on doing sampling. So anybody on shift can be that person that's directing it. So just a quick slide, a little prompt for MSHA. So MSHA Silica standard, I have a link here. The full document itself is 268 pages. It's quite a lengthy document. It's the usual regulatory, try and weed your way through it, figure out what do I need to take from it, what do I not understand, and who do I go to try and get information to clarify. If you'd like the link, I'd be more than happy to provide that to you as well afterwards. 2 key takeaways from the new rule. The 50 micrograms per meter cubed as an 8-hour TWA, this is the permissible exposure level. That has been reduced from 100. That's what it previously was. And now we've also got a 25 microgram per meter cube action level as a time-weighted average. The time-weighted average is based on 8 hours. So those are the 2 key takeaways from the new ruling that is helping to direct how the companies are doing their monitoring, how the health and safety people are designing their plans. I don't have the slide here, but it's helping to direct to say, okay, here's your first test. Now you have this level. What's your direction for your next test and subsequent tests along the way? So this is how the ruling came into effect with MSHA from Mr. Williamson. So proposed back in June of 2023, published in the Federal Register July of 2023. They had the 3 public hearings in August, and then into August as well, extension of the comment period to September 11th, 2023, and then the final rule was issued in April of 2024. Rule came into effect in June of 2024. At that point, they said, coal mines, you're not doing any sampling external, you're only using MSHA, you have 1 year to get into compliance. These companies have never used an external lab, only for their total dust sampling. They've never used it for health and safety in terms of respirable dust. So 1 year for these people to get things up and running. You've got about 500 coal mine sites across the US, and a lot of these people are just not used to dealing with externals. So they've been scrambling to get themselves in order. We've done a few presentations, been down in Nevada, and talking with people down there. They're not getting a lot of direction from MSHA to help them out in that respect. So the ruling was supposed to be by April 14th of this year that they had to be in compliance. And we all know they probably weren't. And they were all scrambling, as we all do. But the safe part about it, the nice part about it, is there is an extension provided. The extension is now to August 18th, 2025. So they're still working through it. I have a feeling there'll probably be more extensions as we move along. The last one would be for April 2026. This is for the metal, non-metal mines. So for your quarries, your aggregates, and things like that, they've all been using external sources, so they've got a little bit more time to get themselves in compliance. So, major components of the new rule. First one, establishes uniform standard among all mines. So now you've got coal mines, you've got metal, non-metal mines, everybody's on a level playing field. Everybody has to come into compliance on the same safety standards. It's not, I work in a coal mine, this is what I'm doing. I work in a metal, non-metal mine, aggregate, well, these are our levels. Everybody's at the same level now. The nice thing about it is when it comes to sampling, I know there's a few people in the room here that do sampling for sure. It allows for alternative collection devices, but they still need to meet the ISO 7708 1995E standard. That being said, most people are probably used to using a cyclone in terms of sampling. You can now switch up to a PPI, which is a lot easier to use. It's not as cumbersome in the breathing area, because we all know when you have something here for 8 hours in the breathing area, it's a little cumbersome. People don't enjoy it, trying to get a worker to do that. Or some workers, they kind of refuse, or they say, I'll fix that. So, nice that there are options. So environmental cabs can now be considered as engineering controls. I'm sure there's a few people in the room here that deal with supplying ventilation and cabs to the industry. So that is one thing that is in the new MSHA ruling. Report any PEL, so permissible exposure limit, exceedance to MSHA. So anything above that 50 micrograms per meter cubed over a TWA of 8 hours needs to be reported to MSHA so that they know what's going on, and MSHA officers will come in and have a chat, try and sort things out. The companies are still allowed to continue to operate if exposures between the action level, which is 25 micrograms per meter cubed, and that should actually be the PEL, so the PEL at the 8-hour time weighted average. So between 25 and 50, they can still operate, but they need to get things sorted out and try and get that level below 25. So periodic inspections conducted every 6 months, wherever there's a change in the process. So if they get 2 clean samples, so if you get a less than 25 micrograms per meter cubed, and then you have another test that has to be when you get your results, or at least 7 days from that original sample, and they get another one that's below 25, then they don't have to worry about testing that group, but it's good to do a 6-month check just to make sure. Maybe you're in a different ore body, maybe your procedures have changed, maybe your equipment's not up to snuff. Right? You still have to do those periodic checks to make sure. And as I spoke about before, the mine operators can do the surveys. You don't have to bring an external company in. It's not good for the consultants that are probably in the room here or the external companies that like to come in and do the testing. I still think that's the best, but it's all about money, as we know, especially in the coal mining industry. There's not a lot of money there. No need to sample all miners. As I had mentioned earlier, you need to do a representation. So if you have 10 people on dozers, you can't just do 1, you need to do 2. You have to get a couple of numbers. You never know. Maybe you've got some equipment failures, things like that. You have to take that into account. Full shift sampling must be done. You can't just sample for 2 hours, right? You need to sample for a full 8 hours or an extended shift. When it comes to sampling, we're looking on our chain of custodies for how much air has been pulled through the sample. It's part of your calculations. If you don't have enough air being pulled through in enough time, your detection limits are going to go up. It's a wasted sample. It's a wasted money. Labs need to be ISO 17025 certified and use NIOSH or OSHA approved methods. This is the standard across the industry. If you're sending anything into a lab that is not certified or not using the proper methods, your numbers are not defensible at the end of the day. That's what you're looking for. If there is an issue, you want defensible data so that your lab can back you up. Qualified labs can be found on the AIHA LAP website and the A2LA. Again, that has to deal with a lot of the US. Overexposures, MSHA needs to be notified. Then the employees need to be in an approved respirator to get that exposure below the PEL. Increased rigor of enforcement protocols and inspections with penalties for non-compliance. Obviously, you can only get away with it so long. Somebody's going to say something, and you need to make those announcements to MSHA or to your certification body. Uniform requirements for controlling and monitor exposures across all mines. Again, making sure that you're covered across coal mines, metal, non-metal mines, making sure that it's uniform. Uniform requirements for medical surveillance across all mines. So what that means is now that they have to make sure that they're doing proper testing. If somebody's had overexposure for over 30 days within a year, you have to be able to provide them the infrastructure to go get testing, to get chest x-rays, to get lung function tests. And the last one, updates reflect the latest advances in respiratory technologies and practices. So, exposure assessment. Spoke about this a little bit already. So initial exposure monitoring of employees who are or may be reasonably be expected exposed to crystalline silica. So we spoke about the PEL level being at the 50. So if they are over the 50, you need to provide them with the proper respirators at the start of the next work shift to ensure that they're working safe and be working on getting the mechanical fixes in place for them. Anything between a 50 and a 25, so between the PEL and the action level, you need to continue sampling within 3 months of that previous sample to ensure that you're trying to get down to the level of 25. You need to show that you're trying to do something to advance it to get a better number. And then anything below 25, as I discussed earlier, would be periodic inspections every 6 months. So, on to my side of the fence in terms of analytical, out from the regulatory portion of this. So the top one, we've got incorrect flow rate. So if you have a cyclone that's supposed to be set at optimal of 2 liters per minute, and you've set your pump at a 2.5 or 1.7, right? You're gonna have an incorrect number. So setting the flow rate on your pump according to what your media is, that is crucial in getting a proper number. Insufficient airflow, again, we kind of flip that, not getting enough flow rate coming through, you're gonna skew your number again. When it comes to turnaround time, chains of custody, people, they're trying to do that testing so that they say, well, I need this rush because I need to get somebody within compliance. Well, if you don't indicate it on the chain of custody, the lab doesn't know that it's a rush sample. So it just holds things up. No field blank. Field blank is important when you're setting up your sampling procedures. Having a field blank is like your defensible data, right? Get yourself a baseline for that room, right? You're setting it all up. You put everything in order. You have your pump. You have your media. Put it all together as you normally would to take a normal sample. Just don't turn the pump on. Then take it apart, put it back in the bag, label that as your field blank. Now you have a field blank defensible data sample. It's going to be analyzed as you would for all your other samples as well. Incorrect field calibration, so not calibrating with media inline. So you're just hooking up your sample, not putting the media there. It's not going to help you. Incorrect sample handling, no COC or cyclone tipping. I think everybody can agree in the room, if you've done sampling, that cyclones, they tip. You spend 8 hours, you've lost your sample. It's a waste of money, waste of time. I see some heads nodding out there. So cyclones are a pain, so that's why PPI samplers are a lot nicer to use. And then not indicating the types of silica. So some people are looking just for a total silica number. Some people are looking for a breakdown, looking for your quartz, looking for your cristobalite, looking for your tritomite, right? That needs to be on the chain of custody. We're not mind readers at the lab, so if you're looking for something specific, please make sure that that's indicated on the chain of custody. Last thing you want to do is get your data back and say, hey, I was looking for this, this, and this. Unfortunately, that sample's been run. That filter is no longer usable. So again, that's a wasted sample. So filling out chains of custody accordingly, making sure that that data is there, request what you need. So your role in air monitoring. In advance of sampling, communicate with the lab. We have certified CAHs on hand, and most labs do. That can help you with getting your program in order. So communicate with the lab as early as possible, especially for some of these larger programs. If you're going out to do 50, 100, sampling, we have to make sure we have enough time to get your media, to get your pump set up, to get it all out to you in a timely fashion. Obtaining the sampling media in appropriate forms, again, having the COCs, having everything in order. Let the lab know how many samples will be arriving. If you're looking for a rush, if we get 100 samples and you say, hey, I need the results for tomorrow, well, then we're bumping everybody else's sample. Will we do our best? Absolutely. But planning ahead is your best bet to help out. And that kind of leads into inform the lab as to when you will need the results. We want to make sure, if you have an officer coming in to do some inspections, that you have your data. But if we don't know that you need a rush, then we don't have that communication. Next one, we spoke about this earlier, similar exposure groups. This will determine how many samples you're going to need to take. Preparation at the work site, obviously this is in communication with your people on the site. Communicate with the mine personnel in advance about schedule and expectations. Allocate extra time before and after the shift for setup and calibration. This is not something that, again, I think everybody knows this. It's not something you just say, hey, go sample. Go put this on, go walk into the field, go get it done. It takes time to do it properly, right? There's got to be some scheduling put into place so the worker understands this is what I need to do, and this is properly how it's going to be done. Rule of thumb, allowing an hour before and after scheduling event. I don't know what folks use here in the field, but that's just kind of a rule of thumb that has been put to me by Ed in terms of allowing people to do a good job, doing all your paperwork ahead of time, and then doing the paperwork afterwards, because that's also important. Filling out the chain of custody, making sure that you have all the proper information on those chains when you're sending it in. Again, chain of custody is a legal document. As soon as you sign off on that, you are liable at that point in time. So if your information is incorrect, that is on that person that signed off. Calibrations, always perform a pre and post calibration and record those results. We set up pumps when they go out. You've got the media, you're saying, okay, I'm using a cyclone, I need 2 liters per minute, we set it. Who knows what happens in shipping? We all know how shippers work. Things get tossed around, it says fragile, throw it like a football, right? See if we can break that thing. So when you get that equipment, check it. You'll always get a rotometer or a flow meter with it so that you can check those flows to make sure that that pump is accurate and where you want it before you start your sampling. Again, the last thing you want is improper sampling flow. We're going to have some issues with samples. Inspect the equipment. So whenever it comes to you, we try and send them out in proper Pelican-style boxes, but again, they get knocked around. Maybe there's an issue with the filter. QA, QC, yes, they check all the, they don't check all the filters, they'll check a select few. Maybe you get a filter, now it's got a crack in it. Again, the last thing you want to do is go out into the field, doing your sampling and seeing, now I have a cracked filter. The sample's no good. Okay? Check all your equipment before you go out and do the sampling to make sure everything is in order. Check all the O-rings, check your accessories that go along with your sampling as well. And again, verifying everything is intact. Cyclones, make sure the cyclones are in good condition and clean out the grit pots as well. Depending on where you're sampling, maybe you've got a lot of heavies that have deposited down into the grit pot. Make sure that those are cleaned out. Last thing you want to do is have a backup, and then you've got all those heavy particles on your filters. Sample volumes, spoke about this earlier, having the correct airflow, right? Setting up your pump in accordance with your media, and then representative sampling. Make sure sampling is representative of the equipment being used and the engineering controls. Then sample during normal working conditions. Never worst case or least possible exposure, right? Go with what is going to happen throughout that day. Don't just say, well, this person over here, I'm going to sample them because they're not really involved in the procedure during the day. They come in for an hour and they go for an hour, they come back. No, whoever's in that procedure, whoever's in that process, they need to be the ones that are being sampled. So during sampling, spot check your sample, record relevant activities. Keep an activity log with relevant information such as location and work activities. Again, having those documented notes of what's going on in that area. It's time consuming, yes, but again, you have that information, so if an inspector does come in, you have data, you have information to provide to them. Don't simply just turn on the pumps and leave them come back at the end of the shift, but instead schedule times to make spot checks and take notes. People will find ways, right? You set them up during the day. Yeah, I'm going to go do my sampling, no problem. Then throughout the day, you find it sitting over there. Right? So check in on people, make sure. So the last you want to do is get a bad sample. It's not good for your company at the end of the day as well. You get some elevated numbers, now you're stuck. As soon as you have those elevated numbers, you are stuck, right? Sample for the entire shift and not just during potential exposure activities. Field blanks, as I spoke about earlier, field blanks are always needed. Ed has this highlighted, always. With each batch for the QA/QC. But I think it's more on the defensible data side to have that field blank for you. So again, field blanks, sampling media that goes through the whole process, you're just not turning on that pump. You're not pulling any air through that filter. Hook it up, undo it, put it back in a bag. At a minimum, there should be at least one blank submitted for each day of sampling. So every day, you're gonna have a blank sample. Sample submission, making sure that you fill out the chain of custody accordingly. Sample times, flow rates, so that we're verifying those air volumes. Identify clearly responsible person and contact information who will be receiving the lab report and invoice. If we have a question, we need to have that proper information. You can't just put on company ABC, have no contact information. We don't know who to go back to if we have questions. Identify everybody that needs a copy of the report. So on that chain of custody, if there's 10 people that need to get a copy of the report, no problem. Sample, let's go to the next one here. Sample labeling and paperwork. Use unique identification IDs on all the media. So if it's dozer number 1, put dozer number 1. Make sure that's on the media, make sure that's on the chain of custody as well. And making sure that it's legible. We all know that some people have doctors writing. We need to be able to match those things up from the chain of custody to that media so we can make sure we're doing the correct sample for you and doing the correct calculation. Don't use social security numbers. I guess they've seen that at the lab, so it's not a good thing to be using those on there. And also making sure that you specify the analysis that you want, whether it be gravimetric and the silica. So if you want the 3 forms, make sure that you put that on the chain of custody. Also, if you're looking for respirable dust concentrations, it's not required by MSHA, but if you want to have that number, make sure that you tell us that you want that. And again, at the bottom here, chain of custody. I can't stress this too much. Signed chain of custody is required. We need that signature. You signing off on it, we need that information. So fill out all the spaces. Don't just say, oh, the lab should know. We don't know. We're not mind readers. Shipping. Make sure you're shipping the air samples by themselves. If you're doing respirable air, don't ship with any bulk samples or anything like that. Okay? Make sure that they're separated by themselves. And make sure that they're specially packed within the boxes. Results, be sure to inform management and affected employees of the results. So if you have a over limit, make sure that you're reporting that to the employees, and then make sure that you're posting the results for the employees. And the other one is be sure to inform MSHA if the PEL is exceeded for valid samples. Area sampling is something else you can do too. If you want to just set it up in an office just to get an idea, it's not on the personal, but if it's within the office, that's a good idea too, to do that area sampling. I'm getting the 5-minute sign, so I'm just going to kind of finish up here. How to comply. Read the rule. I think that's the best thing everybody can do. Read the rules, look at it, interpretations, don't understand, go back to, in this case, obviously your MSHA officer or OSHA, figure out what you need to do. Don't just make an assumption that I think it's this and then it's not the right one. Read the rules. For the don't wait, obviously for the coal mines, that has been moved to August 18th, so they're trying to get themselves into compliance, and then April of 2026 for the metal, non-metal mines. Developing a sample plan, internally, outside consultant, laboratory support, we can help you out there. And then obviously choose a qualified lab. At the end of the day, you want defensible data. We go through very, very rigorous proficiency programs. We're checked all the time, whether it's on a yearly basis, sometimes it's every 6 months, every 2 years. We pay a lot of money to get that done, so if you want defensible data, please send to a qualified lab. And that's all. So Thank you very much, everybody, for your time today.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. Okay, thank you very much to Ryan. I know this is very impactful for the industry in the U.S. It's a major undertaking that's requiring a lot of thought and planning as to how to comply with 50% reductions, and we've seen similar reductions across Canada and in Ontario. And I think all the tips that Ryan gave on best practices with sampling are spot on. It's a real specialty, I think, within our business, and those people are very valuable as industrial hygienists and people with that level of expertise. So thank you, Ryan. It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who is Lisa Cadosa, and her presentation is called Building Your Safety Culture by Expecting the Unexpected. So Lisa is the Manager of Strategic Planning, Analysis, and Reporting at Canada Border Services Agency. She has held other positions within Health Canada, Public Health Agency of Canada, Public Service Commission of Canada, Treasury Board Secretariat, Citizen and Immigration, and with the Canadian Banknote Company. Lisa is also a volunteer speaker at the family member of Threads of Life, the Association for Workplace Family Support. So with that, let's please welcome Lisa.
Thank you. Is this on? Okay, good. So I'm the daughter of Robert C. Wolf Nesbitt, who was killed on the job March 6, 2006. I'm originally from Sudbury. I moved to Ottawa about 24 years ago, and it was always the joke that when I would start cheering for Ottawa, because now I've lived in Ottawa longer than I've been in Sudbury. And I said, when Ottawa and Toronto meet in the playoffs, and Ottawa actually beats Toronto, I'll become an Ottawa fan. I wasn't worried. Now I'm getting very worried, so we'll see what happens. I live in Ottawa with my daughter, Cassandra, and our Basset Hound, Sherlock. So I come to you from Threads of Life, which is a national charity, which vision is to inspire a culture shift as to where workplace fatalities, occupational disease, and injury are morally, socially, and economically unacceptable. We already see some examples of culture shifts when you think of the fines that double in construction zones. Those are all different shifts that are happening as a result of injuries. So I was introduced to Threads of Life about 3 years after my dad passed during his coroner's inquest. The health and safety rep that had helped us through the whole process had unfortunately lost his son-in-law to a workplace fatality during that time and had found Threads of Life and thought that they could be of help. At that time, I was having a really hard time, and they really helped. It was an organization that didn't really exist before. Shirley Hickman created it after her son was killed on the job. So my dad was an avid sailor. He had 2 sailboats. He had the Sarah Joy, the US 27, which was housed here at Ramsey Lake. And then he had the Sea Wolf, which was his 50-foot catamaran. And he got addicted to making these decals with the boats, every boat, with him as the captain. And then we would all get our sweatshirts that would say CPO, Chief Petty Officer. And you knew when you came home for Christmas, if you had a sweater for the guy you were dating or seeing or whatever, he approved. What we didn't know was when we were packing up his clothes after he passed away, is that somebody had embroidered his underwear. And I'm really not sure who would have done that, but he even had his underwear embroidered. That's how much he loved sailing. So March 6, 2006 started out as any other day. I went to my job at the Banknote in Ottawa, not knowing that before lunch, my life would be completely changed. So my sister called, and she was pretty upset and said that something had happened, and that the health and safety reps were going to pick up my mom, pick up my aunt, and pick up my sister, and bring them all to the hospital. She didn't want to wait. She lived out in Chelmsford, so she drove herself in and told me that no matter what it was, good or bad, that she was going to give me a call. The next probably 10, 15 minutes felt like an eternity. And then my boss told me my mom was on the phone, which I thought was odd because my sister had said, you know, good or bad, she was going to call me. And I remember those words, even though it's been 19 years, like yesterday. And she said, you know, there's been an accident. It's really bad. You need to come home. Your father's dead. And in hindsight, people might think how cold that was, but I don't know how I would ever tell my daughter that her best friend, her rock, her shoulder to cry on, was not coming home. Immediately, I got a plane ticket. Next morning, flew to Sudbury into the waiting arms of my sister and my aunt. And we just cried in the airport, what felt like for hours, and people were just staring at us, but they had no idea what had just happened to our family. Our dad was, you know, the glue that kept the family together. So we were explained by the OSH rep that all the steps. So first there was a police investigation to see if it was, you know, a homicide, which was deemed pretty quickly. Then the Minister of Labor comes in and has a week to do their investigation and a year for their findings. And then they hired an internal, they put together an internal committee at INCO to do their own investigation. The Minister of Labor's report had come back that it was no fault. It was neither the employer nor the employee's fault. But in our mind, we just needed to know why. Why did this happen? How did this happen? Following the investigations and the coroner's inquest, after all of it, we had the coroner's inquest, which ended up being about 3 years later. And as a result, so the coroner's inquest would happen at the end of everything. So, but we just kept asking ourselves, how did this happen? So the next day, the president at the time, the president of INCO, came to my dad's house, and he had said, you know, this was a freak accident. Everything that had to go wrong for this to have ended in death did. But once we had all the investigations and everything, we were able to realize that it wasn't a freak accident. We could have prevented it, and it would have had a very different outcome for my life, for sure. So March 6th, my dad arrived about 7 a.m. for roll call. He was working alone, which was not uncommon for him. He had 37 years experience, had been doing the same job for a very long time. So it wasn't uncommon that he worked alone. And they had a working alone procedure where he had to radio in every 10 minutes. So that's how they're able to gauge when the things happen. So he was mucking remote control on the 2600 level of Stobie. Because of the area being dangerous, he was mucking remote control, but using, at the time, the portable stand. And the portable stand would have a sling attached to it in order to move it from site to site in the bucket. Now, the sling is supposed to be removed before you leave it. But the night before, the person, like we learned during the coroner's inquest, that it was a common practice. If you couldn't get it off, just tuck it in and hide it so nobody can see it, no big deal. So in the close quarters of the mucking remote control, doing the remotes, it's tight. So, you know, they bump into each other, wobble, hit each other. So the sling at one point fell out. My dad, and it got caught on the scoop. So my dad he didn't see it, so he still had the remotes going. And the stand kind of lifted a little bit, so he let go of the remotes. But the remotes at the time had a 10-second delay. And I go back and think, 10 seconds. Like if my riding lawnmower had a 10-second delay or anything, how that could not be seen as an injury, it hurt somebody. So the stand lifted enough that he let go of the remotes, fell backwards. The stand kept lifting. The sling snapped, couldn't handle it, and the 2-ton stand came down on top of him. You know, they tell us that his death was instantaneous. But I just see him watching his life flash before his eyes. So 3 years later, roughly, we had the coroner's inquest. Most of the changes that had to be made had already been made and put into place before the coroner's inquest. One was that the stands are no longer portable and that the remotes no longer have a delay. And then one of the jurors had made a comment to any new safety procedures that are put into place, you know, be put in my dad's name. It was, you know, a nice sentiment. I don't know, you know, whatever happened with that, but it was a nice sentiment. You know, health and safety is all of us. We all have a part to play. You know, the employees down on the floor, the supervisors, the CEOs, everybody has a part to play. And it needs to be a culture in an organization that employees are aware that it's okay to speak up and it's okay to report a potential hazard, and it's not, you know, not going to be frowned upon. You're not going to be fear of reprisal. We were able to see from the investigation that INCO had done that 4 times it was reported that stand jostled, somebody had fallen off, and so it was reported a few times, so imagine how many times it wasn't. And that's the other thing that's most important, is the near misses. Those are our chances to prevent anything bad from happening. So those are the ones we have to report all the time, and so that people can fix them. You know, and I know certainly before I got into health and safety, I certainly never really paid much attention to it. But I certainly don't want anybody else to have to suffer the loss that we've suffered as a family when it could be prevented. You know, this is a great organization, and I'm so proud to be part of it, but it's a group nobody wants to be part of. You know, if you think you're invisible or invincible, perfect. But look at the buddy beside you, the coworker, are you willing to tell their spouse, their father, their sister, their mother, that because you skipped a step to make something quicker, that their family's not coming home? That's not something I want to do. And everybody we're a family, you gotta keep everybody safe. It's, you know, it's up to everybody to speak up. You know, my daughter and I have this saying, you see it, you own it. If you see something and do nothing, then you are as responsible for the outcome as the person that did it. And you know, I had a little girl who would be in the mall and would see water on the floor and would look at me and say, "Mommy, that's a slipping hazard." And she'd run and find the custodian and stand there till he came and cleaned it up. And then he'd put a wet floor sign, and we'd come back around, and she'd say, "Well, now that's a tripping hazard." And she'd grab it and put it away, you know, because she knows what it's like, and she's seen me, and she's come to presentations with me, and she knows how it felt to never know her grandfather, never meet him. You know, my dad was quoted as being a pretty safe miner. I remember at times he would come home, and I'd be like, "Why are you home so early?" And he's like, "Oh, there's something wrong with my scoop. I'm not messing around with that." And he would, you know, come home, but he would always speak up. So if it can happen to him, it can happen to anybody. So we need to ensure, and I'll say it again, everyone has a role. Employees report, employers make it a well system in place where people can report and not be fearful of it. And, have those open door, and let the people know they're having these, my door is always open. You can report any of these hazards. Cassandra will never know her grandfather. She was robbed of the most precious gift life has to offer. So the next time you're working and you see something isn't safe, stop and report it to your local health and safety department. Don't be afraid of slowing down production or having a fear of reprisal. Remember, Robert Seaworth Nesbitt, a father, a husband, a brother, a son, will never see his family again because of a common practice not to report potential hazards. He will never hold his grandchildren. He will never sail all over that he had dreamed of. I hope my story and coming here and speaking to you today makes you realize that workplace tragedies are preventable and are not just the cost of doing business. Thank you.
Well, I think, Lisa, on behalf of everybody, thank you for having the courage to share your story. There's probably not a dry eye in the house here. So, and I think when we think there's a lot of health and safety professionals and operational people here who own safety, preventing fatalities and life-altering injuries is the most important thing that we can work on every day, and it's a harsh reminder as to why it's so important. So again, thank you. Lisa, thank you so much. Appreciate that. It's very brave of you, and I'm sure that impact that you just made on everybody here is going to last a long, long time. So thank you again. We're going to keep moving forward in our agenda here today. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, but that's okay. We got some extra time here. So the next presentation is about the Ontario Mine Contractors Safety Association. So that's a organization that is dear to my heart. I've been on the executive committee of it for about 13 years now, as the secretary treasurer. And I'll just make a little plug here. I know our interim chair, Jake Hughes, will do the same, but if anybody ever wants to come out to one of our meetings, if you're a member or not, or a mine owner, I would highly encourage it. It's a great group, and we put on about 4 mini conferences a year across Northern Ontario, so it's really good. And what we're going to do today is recognize some of the proactive things that happen within the Ontario Mine Contractors Safety Association. So each year we have a safety innovation contest that takes place in our March meeting, which is generally held in Timmins. And we have a bunch of organizations come forward and share some of the great ideas that have been developed by the people at the face, in the shops, in the design groups that are going to help prevent injuries. The group is based on sharing. We share our incidents, our lessons learned, and also our innovations. So this year we actually had 5 submissions here that we're going to highlight today and share, and I think the goal here is that you'll see which company that each of 5 of these come from, and if you think that it's a good idea and maybe something that could be helpful for your workplace, reach out to myself or Jake or one of the company that came up with the idea, and let's spread it, right? Because I guarantee you a good idea for us is a good idea for you, so let's keep that going. So with that, I'm going to introduce the interim chair of the OMCSA, which is Jake Hughes of Technica Mining.
I'll bring the globe up.
Oh, okay.
Thanks again, Steve. You took lots of my words at the start, so that's good. So what Steve's saying is be careful, is we actually had a little bit of, I'll just be transparent, we had a bit of an issue with the award. The globe is sort of detached from the top, so, but we'll have that fixed. Good morning, everybody, and thanks to WSN for providing the opportunity to speak to the OMCSA Innovation Contest that we have annually. Really appreciate it. My name's Jake Hughes. I work for Technica Mining, and I'm the interim chair of the OMCSA. Work closely with Steve, but I got to give Steve credit. He's the flywheel that keeps us going. I mean, without him, I think we'd be in trouble. So thanks, Steve. This is a pretty neat contest. It looks at ideas that come from the floor, primarily from the floor, or the supporting departments like maintenance or engineering and things like that, that come into fruition for the companies to use in their operations around improving health and safety. So really, really neat. I think Steve talked a bit about the OMCSA, but I'll put another plug in. You'll see on our slides here, we're made up of approximately just shy of 40 members. We're made up of member firms, as you can all see here, and the associate firms. So thanks to everybody's membership with the association, because that's our existence, right? So thank you very, very much. The neat piece here, I think we're on meeting 312, something like that. We've been in operation for 70 years, which is really cool. We're actually the oldest mining health and safety association in Canada, and members of the board sit on all of the WSN technical advisory committees. What's really neat, and a big shout out to Tyler Neely before he switched over to the dark side. Just joking, Tyler. And Jacqueline Pashley for our LinkedIn page. So please do check out our LinkedIn page. The innovation program, or the innovation contest, right? It's really cool. It's around showcasing, again, those homegrown ideas that come primarily from the floor. And we have a little bit of a competition, which adds some fun to it. We have a repeat winner 3 years in a row. I think I don't want to give it away, but maybe I just did. So that the challenge is on for the contractors in the room. With the innovations, right, the emphasis is on sharing them amongst our group so you can all take them back. Like Steve said, if anybody wants any information on these innovations, just reach out to myself or any of the board of director members, and we'll give you that information. So what's neat this year is we have 5 submissions, which is really cool. That's a high submission rate, and we're going to showcase them all. So let's get rolling. 5th place, congratulations to Redpath. We have a jumbo toolbox. So lack of storage for key drilling and bolting supplies is a common problem. Bits, tools, shanks, couplers, and that loose on the jumbo is a real problem for those who have done this job and operated the jumbo. There's all sorts of hazards associated with that, right? There's stuff can get under the pedals, trip and obstacles and slipping and tripping hazards as mounting and dismounting or operating the unit. So, and the jumbo itself, for those who aren't familiar with the units, they typically, almost all brands, typically have a lack of storage available on them. So this is really neat. Redpath's come up with an in-cab custom storage box to secure all these miscellaneous tools and supplies, eliminating the hazards, improving housekeeping on the drills and resulting in happy operators, and as service providers, happier clients. It's really good. The concept has also triggered toolboxes for some of Redpath's other fleets. So congratulations, Redpath. It's good. Fourth place, Technica Mining. There's a go, no-go gauge for concrete couplings. So a lot of our work in mining construction deals with pumping concrete. And there's a presence of different designs and different styles and sizes of clamps and couplings and fittings and elbows and things like that in our supplies for pumping concrete. And it can lead to confusion and mismatching of components, and there's some risk in that. And actually, this innovation came out of a failure that we had with a concrete hose that was a near miss. So what we've come up with is, through the investigation, was a set of gauges designed to identify the different couplers. And it's made in-house, and it's supplied with each pump. You can see in the third picture there, they hang a set of these gauges. So really, really neat. And it's a quick and effective check by operators in the field. So congratulations, Technica. Good job. Third place, we have Dumas and the pipe sling. The risk of hang-up while slinging pipe during shaft work puts the workers below at significant risk, right? There's also a risk of the hang-up and loss of load. So Dumas has come up with a pipe sling, was a result of a collaboration between operations, maintenance, and engineering. And it allows for the pipe to be moved through narrow areas and greatly reduces the risk of hang-up as this is coming down, right? Good job, Dumas. Really neat invention there. Second place, we have McIntyre. So Alex McIntyre and Associates, we have a fork stick. And this is kind of grassroots for the innovation contest because it's something right from the floor that is dead simple. And repurposing of materials, waste materials, so pretty neat. So employees have experienced hand injuries as a result of pinch points while adjusting the forks on forklifts. These forklifts slide so that you can match them up with whatever you're trying to move. And I know several contractors in the room have experienced hand injuries as a result of this, us included at Technica. So a simple tool to keep hands out of the pinch point, right? Much like a push stick on woodworking equipment. So it's a great idea, right? Was needed. The fork stick made from a simple rock bolt, right? Inexpensive, highly effective, and eliminates the need to put your hand in there. So I think we've got a video. Hopefully it'll run.
Which way you doing that? Like that? Yeah.
Pretty neat stuff. Congratulations, McIntyre. And in first place, again, 3 times running, so the challenge is on, we have cementation. And actually, there's some really neat work that's been done here around tugger safety. So tuggers are a very useful piece of equipment. I'd say they're actually essential in the contracting world. And, but there is some inherent serious risks with them, right? Especially around tension line management. And with tuggers, you're usually pulling things towards yourself as the operator. So really neat to see some of the work done here. This is, there's multi-innovations here, so cementation was really, they brought out all guns. They wanted to assure the award. Game on. Term line of fire is often used to manage these risks, but it can be misunderstood. It's administrative, right? What is line of fire? There's a lot of variables there. The load, where you're pulling, like the length of the line pull, lots there. So effective guarding could be a challenge. How do we separate people from hazardous energies? We get them out of the line of fire. So problem solved. Separate the tugger operator from the directional line pull. What's really cool here is they've designed a simple remote actuator, and also you see the red guard on it. Really, really neat. Let's have a look.
Okay, go.
Nice work. Really neat. But there's more. Guarding and shipping strategy. So what's neat about the guard that cementation has come up with is they have a full height guard for the operator, and it's also modular, so it packs into the skid for the tugger, right? So you can keep, there's a little box, they keep all their bits and everything with that, so it goes as a unit. There's no searching for lost components. Really neat. And also, again, another innovation is an isolation valve for zero energy. There's residual energy even when the air's shut off on these tuggers. So I think we've got a video here.
So when you shut off this main air line, you still have pressure in your system. So if you push this safety valve down, it'll dump all the air out and put it at zero state.
And then there's a lockout right down there.
Yeah, there's a lockout right underneath here. Oh, right there.
Really, really cool. And the last improvement that they've made around tugger safety is a means to test the braking systems on the tugger independently. Right? Let's have a look. We've got another video. Really neat stuff. So congratulations, Cementation, for the third year in a row winning the Moran Group Global Award. Let's give a round of applause. Oh, well. Appreciate it. Good job. Take care of it. Yeah. Thanks again, everybody. Good.
Keep applauding, keep applauding.
Oh, no.
Thanks. Good job, Steve.
So thank you very much for that, Jake. And I had, just to be clear, I had nothing to do with that safety innovation. And the ideas and the implementation all came from some individuals who offered to bring them here, and they were quite pleased to not come. They said, you know what, Steve, you do your thing. We'll keep plugging away at our stuff. So truly appreciate what they did, and I can't reiterate enough. Anybody sees any ideas on here that you want some more information on, it's all about sharing. It's all about collaboration. So reach out, and let's make our workplaces safer for everybody. Our next aspect of the conference is another recognition piece, which is fantastic. It's important that the industry recognizes all these great things that are happening. And for the next phase here, I'd like to introduce Sam Barbuto, who is WSN Health and Safety Specialist, on stage to present our next award.
Thanks, Steve, for the intro. So I'm not sure if everyone is aware. So yesterday, we had a draw for a cooler, and Steve ended up winning it. So part of the stipulation was the cooler, if you win it, you have to fill it up with ice, then fill it up with beer, then call me when it's, so we can empty it out. So I'm still waiting for that call. All right, so Just going through the Culture Maturity Awards. So in 2024, Workplace Safety North introduced the Workplace Culture Maturity Awards, a recognition program tailored for Ontario's mining and forest product industry. These awards celebrate your journey to fostering a positive health and safety culture within your organization. In 2017, the Institute for Work and Health validated our climate assessment and audit tool. Their findings revealed that companies with robust safety cultures experience fewer injured worker compensation claims. So the Workplace Culture Maturity Awards utilizes a perception survey to measure the current culture climate in your workplace, and by participating, your company not only qualifies for an award, but also gains valuable insights on how to enhance safety culture. The Workplace Culture Maturity Awards are not intended to measure legal compliance, replace or audit a complete health and safety management system, but rather take a targeted approach to assess the culture, recognize the maturity level of key practices that support a positive workplace culture and a strong IRS. The higher a firm's maturity level, the better its health and safety components at site. Contributing factors influence the way people behave and how they think and feel about health and safety issues. So this year, we have the pleasure of recognizing the efforts and dedication of 4 mining sector firms. So throughout the process, their efforts and dedication to bringing every worker home safe and healthy were evident. So on behalf of Workplace Safety North, I would like to congratulate Technica Mining, Lakeshore Gold Timmins West, DyeCorp, and Oryx on their outstanding achievements. So I'll call up the firms for their awards. So I'd like to invite Technica Mining on stage to accept their recognition. So please welcome Brad Hoford. Okay, thanks, Brad. Next, I would like to invite Lakeshore Gold Timmins West to accept their recognition. So please welcome Lisa Levine and Keandra McLaughlin. So you don't want to drop the glass. So I would like to thank or to recognize DyeCorp for their submission. So unfortunately, they're not available to attend today, but we'll send their award to them. Finally, I would like to invite Oryx on stage to accept the Top Performer Recognition Award. Please welcome Ashley Kerwin, Justin Bernard, Kyle Whitney, and Dan Piotrowski. So they ended up winning the award plus the outstanding award. Okay, so, yeah, thank you for the participation, and we'll see if we recognize you some more in the 2025 AGM. Thanks again.
Thank you, Sam, and congratulations to all the winners. That's great recognition, and share that with your workplaces. So at that note, we are a little bit ahead of schedule, but we're going to extend our break a little bit. So the snacks and drinks are actually out in the atrium, so you got to get some steps in and go over there, and good opportunity to network and see some of the booths and exhibitors that we have today. And we are going to reconvene here at 10:55 a.m. for our next presentation. So thank you and enjoy the break.